And now on 2GB Sydney, 4BC Brisbane and network stations, it's time for weddings, parties, celebrations with Kate White and Kaylee Harris. Thanks to Peters of Kensington Gift and Bridal Registry. Register in-store or online at petersofkensington.com.au.
Baby, I think I want to marry you.
Now, one thing couples should think about once they're engaged is wedding insurance. Tonight, we're going to be discussing wedding insurance and what it covers. And, Kate, a lot can go wrong. We've covered many stories over the past 100 years about 100 years.
God.
Feels like it's some 100 shows. And about photographers who have taken your money and never delivered the photos. We've heard stories of the wrong coloured wedding car showing up, those sorts of things.
And what about recently the two dress designers that had,
That's right.
we had the bride in who had lost her wedding dress and...
Yep.
Yeah.
So very timely we're talking about wedding insurance tonight.
We have talked about the bridal designers and the photographers that have just gone, that have not followed through and given brides and couples the product that they were promising to deliver. And Dream Wedding Insurance can protect your big day. They protect every deposit you pay. They cover cancellations of the venues, and we've heard a few stories of that in our last 100 shows, injury and sickness of the bride or bridegroom or a family member. And to tell us more about that, we have Graeme Dean from Dream Wedding Insurance. Welcome. How are you?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, very well. Thanks for having me.
So it's a great concept, and I didn't know that you could insure weddings. We seem to insure everything else in our lives. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, like you said, the average wedding in Australia is now about $36,000 and, you know, price of a car. So, you know, it, like you said, it protects everything from cancellation right down to, you know, the damage to your wedding dress or wedding attire or, of course, personal and public liability, which is also quite important. And as you know, a lot of the venues actually require you to have liability cover, so that's included as well.
Great. And I noticed you have sort of 3 or 4 different price ranges. Does that in your package? I think you call it a gold and a bronze, etc. What does each package cover? And should you be? How do we know that we're covering everything for our?
Yeah, sure. So they all cover the same benefits, but there's 4 levels to choose from. So basically, you would look at it from your wedding budget. So it might be a sort of a cancellation coverage of only sort of $5,000 for our bronze, up into sort of a $50,000 worth of coverage for your cancellation.
And what sort of money are you looking at? Because everyone's so, you know, weddings are so expensive these days. They're all looking at, you know, what sort of price are they looking at? Yeah,
exactly. So it starts from around just over $200 for the bronze, and then up until $1,200 for the platinum, which is our top level cover.
And Graeme, how many couples would be insuring their wedding?
It's a good question. So in Australia, it's a fairly new product. So we've only been going around, we're trading for a little over 12 months. But in the UK and the US, it's more of an established market, and you'll see that over a quarter of weddings are all covered with wedding insurance in the UK and the US. So we've covered, I think, just this year, nearly 400 weddings in Australia. So it's growing every month, but it's a fairly, I guess, a new market here in Australia.
And what sort of things, like apart from your dress, what other things are people covering for?
Yeah, look, the big ones are the cancellations. So, as you know, you're booking a wedding for sort of 12 to 18 months out in advance. So you're putting all the deposits down for all the suppliers, the venue, and so anything can go wrong in that sort of time frame. So you'd be covering if the venue falls into the river, like the Milano did in Lake Macquarie, down to sickness and injury to the bride or groom or the immediate family as well. So if the father of the bride gets sick and can't actually make the wedding and you need to postpone the wedding, then you'll be covered for that, and then rescheduling costs as well for that. The other, as I said, the other important ones might be marquee cover. So if you maybe hired a marquee or other hired items get damaged because people have a little bit too much fun. That's covered as well. So
what about a hailstorm? I've had a few of those in my time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so severe weather is covered. So if that actually stops the wedding from happening, so maybe there's a flood up in Queensland or over in Bali with a sort of an ash cloud might be sort of covering and you can't actually get to the wedding and the wedding has to be postponed. Those is covered as well. So we cover weddings all over the world.
What happens if either the bride or groom doesn't show up? Is that covered?
No, unfortunately not. That's obviously the question we get a lot. But no, that's one thing we don't cover is sort of change of mind for the actual couple. Yeah. Yeah,
there was a story that we saw a couple of months ago, Kate, with a couple. the groom didn't show up at this girl's wedding, so she invited a whole bunch of homeless people in the area to come and enjoy all the catering, which was just such a lovely idea.
We've joked with the idea that maybe we should give a bottle of champagne to the person that's left at the altar. But,
yeah.
But it's not covered. No.
All right, so what about, whether you've said is covered, can same-sex couples apply if they're planning a civil ceremony?
Yeah, absolutely, yep.
Yep, that's covered.
And do you have to be an Australian citizen?
You have to be an Australian citizen or living here permanently, or on a 457 visa or something like that, yeah.
What about anniversaries or corporate events, parties? Do you cover things other than weddings?
No, look, at this stage we don't. The weddings are the bigger market in terms of the spend. But look, that is a coverable event, and that's something we're looking to in the future. But right now we're more focusing on the actual weddings, yeah.
And really on $36,000, $240 to $50 is not really that much, is it?
No, exactly. I mean, you're looking at less than 1%. So.
And if you, for example, are the bridal cars covered if something happens to them?
We do cover wedding transport and cars. Yeah, so if something happens, they don't turn up, or they get maybe they get a mechanical failure and stuck on the side of the road and actually don't make the wedding, so we can cover those as well.
What if they do make it but they're late and they kind of ruin the whole day? Can you still claim that?
Yeah, so that's kind of comes under supply failure. So if they don't actually meet the contract that they were actually contracted for, then we cover those costs. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. It's a very heavily compliant industry, isn't it? Insurance. So
yeah,
I guess
totally.
you would have to be, you'd be very conscious of that and what you specifically can and can't cover.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And around the question, do we cover people that don't turn up and things?
Yeah.
We have to say, no, we're not covering that.
What else? Is it because it's too great of a risk?
Well, it's just a highly regulated area, and I think everyone needs to know that they're covered by a real insurance company with compliant policies and sold to them in a compliant way. Look, it took us about 12 months to get the right insurance partner in place, and so we went with Lloyd's of London for that.
Yeah.
They're the biggest insurance market in the world.
What else wouldn't you be covered for that you would get asked? Do you get asked about anything?
Look, it might be so. Some of the overseas weddings, we find people say, "Well, are we covering if some of the guests or the guests don't turn up to the wedding and they're not able to make it?" We don't cover that, but it's more we do cover if the bride or groom or their immediate family can't make the wedding, and then it has to be postponed for that reason. But we can't cover all the guests, 100 or 200 people. So.
Sure.
And is there a line where the sort of travel insurance meets your insurance?
Yeah, well, so travel insurance covers medical expenses and things related to sort of lost deposit of the trip itself. But we're a specific wedding related insurance policy. So the wedding event, the wedding venue, the wedding suppliers, that sort of thing. Yeah.
What sort of stories have you heard? What sort of claims have you had?
We haven't had too many. We've had a few fairly simple ones, but we have heard a few stories overseas, like the father of the bride got a little excited and knocked over a candle, and that started a fire on the tablecloth, and so,
oh dear.
So that was quite an interesting one. But then there's other ones, like I think they were all dancing a little bit too heavy, and then it actually near the wharf there, and actually fell into the water. So it's a few things, and that obviously damages the wedding dresses and things like that. So.
Yeah.
But we haven't had any funny ones like that just yet.
Oh my God! And how far in advance should we pay? Should a bride or a couple look into claiming the insurance?
Yeah, look, we recommend you actually purchase once you've got the date set and you've actually paid the deposit for the venue. We recommend you actually go ahead and sort of book the insurance then.
And is the claim process fairly easy?
Yeah, it's really easy for us. I mean, we've got an online sort of application or claim form that you fill out, and it's just a matter of getting the right documents to sort of validate what the claim is, and sort of receipts and things like that.
Yeah.
Within sort of 7 days, you should be sort of.
Oh, fantastic! And so, what's the address? What's the website?
www.dreamweddinginsurance.com.